Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and today I'm doing another indie horror spotlight. Today, I have with us a director, and he did an amazing short film that I had the privilege of seeing. I'm going to butcher the name, and it's called Chateau Sauvignon Terroir. Was that perfect?
That was great. That was
Awesome,
amazing.
awesome. I have with me my man, David Mayer. David, welcome to the Horror Room.
Thank you, Travis. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for taking the time to chat about horror. It's gonna be a
Yes.
good one.
Now tell everybody about Chateau Sauvignon Terroir.
Chateau Sauvignon Terroir is a slasher coming of age short film that I made as my thesis student film in a master's program at the School of Visual Arts. And it talks about, or it explores the cannibalistic tendencies of a winemaking family, to put it mildly. And essentially, the concept had creeped into my mind years prior as a feature film. I remember when I was in high school, I had seen Eli Roth's Hostel, and I was really taken back by the location and how everything was really kind of contained. And I thought, well, I come from French wine country, and I always figured, well, why not make it on a winery? This is a creepy place in the middle of nowhere. No one's going to hear you scream. So I'd always kind of wanted to make a film about creepy winemakers. And I had the opportunity when I went back to school to get this master's. It's a master's in directing. And each student is supposed to write a short film the first semester, shoot it the second, and then screen it to graduate, which was a fun challenge because a lot of other film programs around the country, generally, they don't require you to complete the movie. And so you have a lot of students with films in the can, but not necessarily on the screen. So that's kind of where the project came from.
And it's a interesting idea. By the way, I just want to do a quick shout out real quick to Shiva Rodriguez. I hope I'm saying her name right. At at Magic of Horror Festival. She reached out to me like a couple months ago, and she was like, I have all these past nominated or award-winning filmmakers. Would you like to interview them? And she sent me a whole list, and it's some amazing stuff. So I just want to say shout out. That's a film festival that's in Virginia. Shout that for me.
Yeah,
Now,
Magic of Horror Festival. Magic of Horror is great. They've been around for a few years now. They put out some good content, great programming. Check them out if you're not familiar, if you're a horror filmmaker.
yes, and fans of the horror room, you're going to see a lot more interviews coming from that film festival. So, oh, sorry. So let's go back to your short film.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It is something that I've never seen before. I did not know. Like when I was watching it, I'm like, okay, where's this going? This is interesting. And then I was like, no, holy shit! Like, whoa. I mean, there is a shock factor there because I was the whole entire thing. I didn't know where it was going, but then I thought, no, it can't go there, and then fucking goes there.
I really wanted to play with expectation. Part of it is, what time period are we in? Because we open the film and you don't see a lot of modern equipment, you don't see a lot of technology, and so you start to think, oh, maybe this is 50, 100 plus years happening in the past, and for a few scenes you are led to believe that this could really be timeless until a car shows up and you realize, oh no, we are in modern day. And that's the first kind of little twist that we start to play with your expectations. And one of the big exercises that I put forward for myself was I didn't want to spoon feed anything. I really wanted to treat my audience as intelligent members of society who are able to pick up on small details. And I just kind of wanted to pepper the story with those details and see what we could get out of it, the feeling that would permeate through an audience. And the response was fantastic. And I think we really achieved what we were setting out to do.
Yeah, I watched it, and by the time I finished it, I was like, "Oh, I want to see a full feature of this." Like, I'm curious. Like, it left me wanting more to understand the story.
Absolutely. We've gotten that note quite a bit, and it is a proof of concept short film. As I mentioned, the initial idea is for a feature, and so I had the opportunity when going back to school to explore the motivations of this cannibalistic winemaking family. Why are they doing what they're doing? How are they doing it? And so I was able to turn the lens instead of on the victims, as most horror films follow victims. This film follows the killers, the murderers. And you're left with this interesting duality as an audience member. You start to realize that you're rooting for the killer and not for the victim.
Yes.
And people don't always really know how to deal with that themselves. Like, oh, no, no, stop it. So that's a fun detail to play with as well.
Because one of the victims, you did a great job at making unlikable.
Mm.
And like, yes, like you said, you're rooting for the quote unquote killer in this. And you know, you're hoping that he wins, which is a weird feeling for most horror watchers.
Absolutely. And I enjoyed the process so much, and a lot of audiences and other filmmakers have really enjoyed watching it and seeing a film or seeing a story told from this different perspective. That now for the feature, for the bigger concept, I made sure that we wrote it from still from the same perspective, that we're following this family along and not the victims. So we do have a feature film written. We have the screenplay has been going to competitions, been doing very well. So
Nice.
hopefully in a few years, knock on wood, fingers crossed, we'll be able to make it. That would be the dream at this point.
I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm looking forward to it. So as a young filmmaker, what are some challenges that you see right now? I mean,
Mm.
it's easy. It's gotten easier to make films and get films out there, but at the same time, by it being so easy, it's a whole nother challenge. So what are some challenges that you ran into?
Uh, it's easier, but it's harder. What you have to do is you have to stand out from the crowd at this point. And how do you do that? Well, either you have a really fantastic creative idea, story that nobody's ever told before, which is a dime a dozen. Even
Yeah.
oh no, oh no, oh no.
Okay, let's pick it back up.
Are we back? We're back.
Yes.
Oh gosh,
All
I don't know
right.
what happened.
All right.
Oh, shit.
All right. I'm gonna ask that question again.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So, as a new young filmmaker, it's gotten easier to, I'm gonna say, make movies, and because is the technology, the cameras are more affordable. But at the same time, what are some struggles when it comes to actually getting your movie out there?
Yeah, that's a great question because it is so much easier to make movies nowadays. It's so readily available. Get a small lens for your phone camera, and so you have to really be able to stand out above the crowd at this point because it's so saturated. And the way to do that, there's one of two ways that I see to do that, and that would be to tell a story that's never been told. And that's going to be incredibly hard to come by and to conceive of. And the other way would be to tell a story in a way that's never been told before. And that still requires a lot of creativity, and that requires a voice. Um, but to get there can be very difficult. How do you find your voice? How do you do something when you need experience to do it without having ever done it? It's that catch 22.
Yeah.
And for me, I think that the hardest challenge coming up has always been how do I finance these movies? Because even if it just takes a small phone, you're still asking for time and energy from a lot of people,
Mhm.
whether it's on the shoot day or prep or post. So unless you're a jack of all trades who can do everything yourself, and I don't recommend it, it's always good to know how things work. But wearing too many hats can just be too much pressure, and you start micromanaging and not focusing on the story and on the project itself, but on all the little details surrounding it. So for me, it's always been financing because it's the most expensive art form there is. Between the other creatives, as well as the equipment that it takes, you've got to shoot somewhere, even if it's just your house, you need insurance. So I think that that was a hard thing to accept as a student, at least, was, oh, the money that I'm paying for my education isn't enough if I really want to get my hands dirty. And if I want to continue making it, I still need to go spend more. Or I need to raise more money, or I need to find people who are willing to bankroll. Um, and so I feel as though I haven't made as many projects as I would have liked, only because finding the money. Short films aren't money makers. They're portfolio builders. They're calling card films. They're stories that have to be told. But less than 1 in 100 is gonna make money. Um, so I think that's the real struggle. I think has really been that is how do you get from that page to the screen, or even just into the can more than anything.
And I agree, and like especially right now, this is why I say everybody's getting into horror, even people who don't want to do horror, because
Mm.
I explain it as the you know here in the states I call it the Kid Rock, the Kid Rock scenario. Kid Rock. If you know anything about him, he started off in hip hop because hip hop was big and that's what he did. And he started gravitating towards rock, and then now you got this conservative hillbilly country music. That's what he wanted to do all along. But in order to get his foot into the door, he did what was popular, which was hip
Right.
hop. And I see that with a lot of filmmakers. They want to make that next romantic comedy or that drama,
Mm.
but the easiest way to get into the door is through horror.
Well, I think also um, horror, because of the aesthetic sometimes that can be associated with it, you can maybe get away with things looking a little cheaper or
Yes,
being done on the cheaper. And so if you're able to tell something creatively, if you do have a story that's a little bit different, you might not need as much money to get that story told or to get eyes on it, because horror fans are many and they're everywhere and they want to constantly have new content to consume, whereas you might not have somebody quite as eager to watch a comedy that doesn't necessarily have the production value behind it.
correct. I agree. Now, speaking of locations, what fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre vineyard did you find to film your short film in?
it's
Was that an
it's
actual vineyard?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a real vineyard that's in the Hudson Valley, just north of New York City. It's in driving distance within about an hour and a half. It's called Ben Marl Winery, and they are the nicest people that I've ever met. They're amazing. We shot at their winery predominantly. They are the entire exterior that we see, as well as most of the rooms, the cave room. There's only one scene, I believe, that was shot at a different winery called Clinton Hills, not far away. And that is the gift shop where he receives visitors who come and taste the wine. That's a different location.
Okay.
And the location search was one of the most strenuous aspects of this short film,
I can imagine.
where School of Visual Arts is in New York City, and that's where I was based out of. And so we figured, well, there's a huge winemaking community out in Long Island. So one of my producers' family is from Long Island. So stay at his place over the weekend, and we would visit winery after winery. But beforehand, we made a list of every single winery out in Long Island. We emailed every single one, and everyone that responded positively, we've then visited. And what we found was that Long Island wineries are very modern, And I didn't want this modern aesthetic. I wanted this old world, what time period are we in kind of look for the location. So we expanded our search, and we started reaching out to wineries in New Jersey, as well as the Hudson Valley. And after a couple of months, we started getting concerned and thinking, oh, we might have to go northern New York towards the Finger Lakes and really get out of the city. And that was up until the point that we were driving up to Benmarl Winery, and it was immediate. It was, oh, this is the vibe. It is solitary, but it has a view of the valley. There's a long kind of creeping road leading up to it. It is one of the oldest vineyards in New York, as a statement of fact. They have a couple of Airbnbs attached to it, so we had plenty of space. And we were able to shoot before the big wine season, before they really had to start working in the fields. So we had some liberty there where we weren't stepping on their toes. And they were just amazing. And the crew was very happy to be able to have wine every evening for them. Yeah, no, they had a great old time. So that was good.
So did you guys do anything to, because it had the winery, the location, had an eerie look to it, like an old rustic eerie look to it. Is that how that it looked, or did you do anything to spice it up?
So part of that aesthetic was already there, just because it's such an old building, it's such an old winery. So what was really cool is that they had old wine presses just kind of out back, not being used, hadn't been touched for forever. And there were some more modern machines that we just put out a frame, and it was very much, okay, what part of this building are we going to use for a scene, and what can we get from around the winery to fill that space in to make it look even older, or even, a little gooier, if you will, more viscous. And so a lot of the objects, a lot of the production design, especially the bigger items, they came from the location, which was really great. There wasn't anything hanging in the barrel cave, for example, but we knew that we wanted foreground materials and we didn't want it to be so bare. So we were able to add little items here and there that kind of made sense to fill out that space. There was one room that we hadn't visited during the Scout, and this was a bottle room. It's just a small room under one of the staircases, and it's like a closet. And we saw it and we loved it. All we need in here is a lamp and the camera, and we can shoot. And so we adjusted certain things, and we were able to get a scene in there, and it looks amazing. So the location helped out incredibly, production design wise, and just being able to keep everything contained was really useful.
Amazing. So, David, what's next for you?
Ooh, I have my fingers in so many little pots.
I know, you sent me a list.
Not exactly so. So my day-to-day, I'm more of an independent producer than I'm a director. The dream is to direct, but it's so expensive. So I always want to keep creative and keep pushing out more content. And so I do that by helping other creatives make their films. And my specialty is the film festival circuit. Chateau, Sauvignon, Terroir has been accepted to over 585 festivals currently. And that's been years on the festival circuit. We have hundreds of awards, hundreds of nominations, and it is done fantastically. And so a lot of the short films I produce also do really well on the circuit. Another short film I produced, The Hobbyist, for George Batistas. This was another School of Visual Arts short film, similar aesthetic. That film has been selected to over 200 festivals, and I'm really proud. We just learned earlier this week, actually, that both Chateau, Sauvignon, Terroir, and The Hobbyist are going to be picked up by Troma now, which is
nice.
Lloyd Kaufman's new platform for Troma films. So we're going to we're super excited. Thank you to Lloyd Kaufman, and thank you to the Astoria Horror Film Festival for putting us in touch. So if you like horror films and you know Troma and you know Lloyd Kaufman, check out Troma now. Those films will be available in the coming months, which is really exciting. And otherwise, I have over half a dozen other films on the festival circuit. Some are more dramas, some are more comedies. So it's continuing to push those films so they have the widest possible audience, as well as hustling on the back end so that more projects come along. I directed and wrote 2 more short films that are in post-production, which I'm really excited about. One of them is a sci-fi story. It's steampunk, a steampunk time machine, and is as cool as it sounds, because there's a lot of visual effects. So that's just taking a long time to complete.
Imagine, yeah.
A little more tedious than I anticipated, we'll say. And the other short film, which should come out hopefully this spring, is called Morning Vigil, and that is a Victorian short film, a portrait on mourning, on grief. And I'm very excited for that one. It's a heavy piece, but the acting is fantastic. The aesthetic, the look of it is beautiful. And I'm just excited to continue sharing new works with our horror fans and just filmmaking fans in general. So yeah.
So how are you able to creatively pump out so many ideas in your head?
Well, the short films that I'm attached to aren't always my creative inception. They're sometimes already shot, or a director has the idea with the script and comes to me. But for me, creativity is just life. I think it's experience. It's seeing something and thinking, oh, what if? The big, how do you start a story with a what if? And I've always been one to jot things down. And so if I wake up in the middle of the night with a crazy nightmare or dream, and I think, oh, that could be pretty interesting to explore, either in script or on screen, I'm going to write that down. And so I have an ongoing spreadsheet with all of my ideas. And if I got something more than an idea, I've got more of a concept, then I'll move it up to my concept stage. And then if I start writing something, then I move it up to the writing and to the complete. So I have a whole breakdown of, all right, I remember this was an idea. I copied and pasted, maybe it was an article from something, the article link, so I can go back to it and remember, or I'll just write a few words about, oh, this reminded me of this movie. It'd be interesting if it had this twist. And so whenever I'm trying to go back to something creative and I don't know what to tackle next, my idea list, pull it up. Let's see. Oh yeah, this was fun. Let's do this one today.
Yeah.
Okay. Write that down. But yeah, as a storyteller, I think it's important to be able to constantly have ideas that you can go back to, that you can explore again. For me, the creative process, I have to be able to navigate between multiple projects to clear one slate so that I can come back to it then refreshed to a certain degree. Because if I stick with one project for too long, I get a little blinded by it. And so it's nice to be able to work, to also switch gears from producer mind to writer mind to director mind. But yeah, I have an international background, and I think that that's probably what helps me remain creative, because I'm always reading the news. I'm always trying to discover other people's perspectives on things. And through that,
do you like people watching in your free time?
I do. I like to people watch in the movie theater, as strange as that might be.
In the movie theater, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, especially a movie that I'm familiar with. So whenever my movie is screening at a festival, I'm usually at the very front and I'm turned around, just kind of looking at everybody. Want to see what their reactions are.
See, I love people watching in restaurants, and maybe I should be a filmmaker or something, because I like to sit people watch and just make a story about what's going on at that table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've done that.
I love just making little stories up.
Those are great, and that's just a good way to keep creative too. You're just exercising that muscle.
Exactly.
You constantly have to be doing that. Oh yeah. I don't think that I purposefully go out of my way to people watch, but when I'm around people, then you don't want to be the creep though. It's like, why is that?
No, you don't want to be that creep. I think I am that creep majority of the time. But I don't know I'm a creep. But even when I'm driving down the street, right? I look at somebody who has an interesting look to them, and I'm always like, I wonder what that person's story is.
Right. Yes, I completely gauge with that, because for me, I mean, going back into horror, my thing in horror is the human monster, because I think that's so much more creepy the fact that this could happen. This is human behavior. What is leading somebody to go to these extremes? And so for me, there's a lot of horror is human psychology.
Yes.
And so I've always been more geared towards that psychological thriller horror than maybe demonic horror or monster horror. And so for that reason, yes, people watching, it's like, oh,
Yes.
what is it about this person? There's got to be what's their deep dark secret. And this could be somebody who's in bright neon colors skipping down the street, but there's some darkness there. What's it going to be? Let's figure that out.
Because I don't know if you ever played Mortal Kombat, but the character Raiden, right? There's a guy who walks around in my neighborhood. He dresses like Raiden, like every day. He just walks around, and I never I say hi to him or something, but I'm always curious, like, what does he do for a living? Like, why is he dressed like Raiden? Like, what? I just want to ask him so many questions. In my brain, I'm making up a story about him.
Yeah. You have to be careful though too, because you don't want to start making assumptions about them. You have to remember that you're just making the story.
I'm making a story, but because I'm like, what job is he working where he can dress up like Raiden? I mean, the whole hat, the contact lenses, the big, like full Raiden gear, and like every day I see him walking around the neighborhood. I'm like, what is his story? Like this is a fascinating. Like, I don't consider him a weirdo. I consider him a fascinating individual. Like, I couldn't walk around as Raiden if it's not Halloween. You know what I mean? Like, damn, that's fucking balls. You walking around, you don't give a fuck what anybody thinks like you. Like, but what is your story? Like, why Raiden?
That's so funny. And so now that you've seen him so much too, you can't even go ask him because you probably built the story up in your mind so much that asking and finding out the truth is just going to be so boring.
It might be a letdown. He might say, I do children's Halloween parties or something, and every once in a while somebody wants Raiden or something. Like, I don't know what kid wants Raiden at the Halloween.
Might have his own YouTube channel as well.
Huh?
He might have his own YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe there could be a camera following him just to get see what people's reactions are or something.
New York. Are you based out of New York?
In Baltimore.
You're in Baltimore. Okay.
Yes.
A little less expected. Okay.
Yeah, but I see Raiden. I call him Raiden. I don't know what his name is. But he seems like a nice guy. He just walks somewhere. I don't know where he's walking to, but he has the big hat on and everything, and just
nice.
I have so many interesting neighbors. I don't want to say neighbors, but individuals that I see on a daily basis. Like, and I'm always curious. Like, there's this lady who there's a park across the street from me, and I just see her playing peekaboo behind a tree in the park. Like, and I'm always like, who is this peekaboo lady? What is she on? She's probably on drugs. I shouldn't say that. Maybe she's just, I don't know, having fun. But I'm always like making these stories up about these individuals. Like, I wonder who they are and what they are. And I think that drives most people nuts because anybody who hangs out with me, I always like, so what do you think that person's story is? Like, and it drives people nuts.
I find that I don't listen to podcasts very often. I'm not somebody who will listen to people talk while I'm doing something else, another activity. I listen to music while I'm doing another activity, whether it's traveling, washing dishes. And so when I am out and about, whether it's on the subway or at a restaurant, and I am listening to my music, I do enjoy what kind of quirk can I discover for even just for a character or for something to remember later down the line. Yeah, because I know that I might be normal to some, I'm going to be abnormal to others, and so is everybody else. What newness can I bring to a character? What kind of little elements might be different that I haven't seen too much of before? People watching is invaluable. Absolutely.
Because life is a movie. If you think about this, life is filled with everybody's a character in this movie. You know, I'm a character, you're a character. You walk down the street, there's so many characters and each one of them have their own quirk and personality, and
Hmm.
the way they walk or the way they talk, everything. Everybody's a character, and I don't know. Like I'm an introvert, so I don't like hanging out with a lot of people, but I love watching people, and like because people just fascinate me.
That's funny, actually. I was just watching a Dave Chappelle special on Netflix, and he was kind of talking a little bit about how life is a movie, and
Yes.
you are the protagonist of your film. But
Hmm.
sometimes you have to realize that you're just a secondary or tertiary character in somebody else's movie,
There's someone else. Yep,
and
that's true.
that's a humbling experience, and that's totally fair as well. It's like, oh, this is not my moment, and I'm going to let that person have their moment, and I will accept that I am living in their story right now, and that's a good way. That's a good way to be. I think that's accepting that it's not always about yourself, and that you can be there for other people too. And that's something I love about short film festivals, because it's not just about your film; it's about a whole program of films.
Yes.
And I don't know if I've ever really done a Q&A alone. There's always going to be other filmmakers there with me, and that's always a fun experience too, because everybody's experience making movies is going to be so vastly different, and every story is going to be different. Um,
I
so
agree.
it's fun to learn in that respect.
And I've been to tons of film festivals and horror conventions. Those are some of the best places to people watch too. Oh, they're so it's so much fun. It's so much fun.
And people excited about things, disgusted. There's no better feeling than seeing a mother just usher her child out when your movie comes
Yes.
out. I know. Don't be
Those are some of the best people watching.
silly.
So, David, where can everyone find you, my friend?
One more time. I'm sorry.
Where can everyone find you?
Oh my goodness, where can we find me? We can find me online. It's going to be Instagram at DM Nightmare. And that's going to be the website as well, dmnightmare.com. David M. Nightmare on IMDb. I'm on Vimeo as well. No longer on too many other social networks, but hopefully maybe further down the line I will be again.
Awesome. Well, everybody, go ahead and subscribe up to Trauma Now, and because Chateau Sauvignon Terroir is going to be.
The first time.
I had it the first time. It's been too long since I've seen it, but
In the head too.
I know it's in the title. Okay, listen, the name is in the title. It's gonna be on streaming on Trauma Now as well as the Hobbyist. So, so definitely check them out. David, listen, had a blast. I told you through email, man. I'm a fan of yours now. I absolutely love your short film.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, cheers to that. Absolutely.
Cheers. And listen, you got to make that into a feature film. You have to.
We're trying to. We're putting out that energy. Everybody, keep putting the energy out there for me.
Yes.
And that we're going to make it happen. I'm now based out of Paris in France, and they've got some good grants over here. So it might even be in French as opposed to in English. Add a little zhuzh to it.
By the way, isn't it kind of messed up? I mean, probably not for you because you live in Paris, but I've talked to a lot of filmmakers in Europe. And in Europe, they give like grants to indie filmmakers that the United States doesn't. Isn't that fucked up?
Oh yeah, that's one of the reasons I'm here. It's one of the things that I focus on when it comes to distribution of short films is forget about festivals in the US, start looking at festivals in Europe, because the festival is going to be just as good and it's going to cost a fraction to submit to, because those festivals in the US don't receive grants either. They don't get subsidized. They need to find their own fiscal sponsorships, and they rely on filmmakers' submissions to exist, which is insane because the filmmakers already struggled to make this movie and get that far.
And they're charging $400, $500, if not more, just for a submission.
It's you can pay hundreds and hundreds very quickly and just see that flushed down the toilet. Whereas in Europe, you could pay less than $10 for a top-notch festival, and it's because they don't need your money to exist. They get sponsored and grants from local communities, from local governments, as well as from their national governments. And not just that, because they don't need your money and they have their own, they can then fly you out. They can put you up. They can feed you. They can give you monetary awards. And that makes you feel like a star, let me tell you. Uh,
Whoa!
all
Compared
right,
to here, like chances are most filmmakers don't even get to the awards because they can't
congratulations.
afford
Been
because
selected
they
here.
because they can't they can't afford to fly out to Wyoming and get a fucking hotel. They're independent filmmakers. They blew all their money on the film.
They're gonna say, "Hey, we got 10% off of the Motel 6 down the road, but you're gonna have to fly over and take the bus and take the cab, and got a barbecue joint down the road. And if you're vegetarian, too bad.
And then
And
you get to the
we
film
got a great
festival,
show. We got a great show, and your movie's playing there, so bring all your friends."
and you
Uh,
get to the film festival, and it's in someone's basement.
that has happened. I've been to festivals and bars where the music in the bar is still playing. I've been to little mom and pop shows, and they're fun. It's nice to see the gamut. I think it's important
Yes.
for any filmmaker to really know, what is your money going towards, who is consuming your product. There's no better tool. And sometimes you're going to meet people who have no idea who you are, or that there's even a festival going on, but then you bring them along and you converted somebody. You got a new friend, you got a new fan. But yeah, Europe, they like to help their filmmakers, their artists, and there are grants that you can apply to that are significantly more achievable to receive than they might be in the States. And so here I am.
Every filmmaker I talk to from Europe, I'm like, oh, so it was funding. Well, oh, we got grants here in Europe. And I'm like, oh, grants. Okay, shit.
Yeah. The budget's not going to be quite as big as some of the American movies, but
Yeah.
things are a little cheaper here too, so you don't necessarily need as much. But it also just forces you to be more creative with what you got.
Yeah.
There's a fantastic French horror film that came out here recently. It's called Vermin in French. Vermin. Vermin, I suppose, is probably the translation. It's a monster horror film. If you like monsters, this is a spider monster horror film. So as long as you don't have any kind of arachnophobia, definitely go check it out. Vermin. It's really, really good, and it's done on a budget, but you really wouldn't be able to tell even on a big screen. So we've got a really good French horror community here. The French, one of the big inspirational points that I came from was in the mid-aughts, early 2000s, mid-2000s. The French had a revival in horror, and it's called a new French extremity horror wave. And this is very much the human monster, with movies like Frontiers, like Martyrs, like Il, which would be Them. And these are generally groups of friends who make a wrong turn into a creepy community or a house that has a strange family in it. And they are excessively violent to an extreme degree. They're really in your face, shock value in that respect. But they do have a good story, and they still are commenting, as a lot of horror films do always have, on whether it's societal kind of pressures or they're trying to reveal something about the human condition. There is some kind of story to them that is more than just, oh, watch torture porn, because it's not what that is at all. And so the French with horror, they really know what's up. They're creepy people, and they really know how to make your stomach churn to a certain degree. So
I'm glad. I mean, I've been doing this channel for almost a year now, and I've met filmmakers all across the world, horror filmmakers all across the world.
Oh, amazing.
Like, and it's so fucking awesome that horror is expanding worldwide. It's fucking amazing. Like, I just interviewed a woman filmmaker from Sweden. I was like, oh my god, that's my second filmmaker from Sweden that I've interviewed. And like, Sweden is not known for horror, but they have these grants now, and they're like, oh my goodness, I can actually now make a horror film. I can actually do my passion because the government is willing to help.
Trying to think of a Swedish horror film, and I'm thinking of, let's see, Trolls, but is that Norwegian?
I think
Might have been a
Trolls
Norwegian.
in Norwegian, yeah. I
Because
don't
there's
think
Dead,
there are any Swedish. I know there's some coming out, but I don't think there are any. Like I
Dead Snow, which was Nazi zombies, is Norwegian. Um, there was a couple of Finnish horror films that came out the last couple of years on IFC, but
I'm
those
seeing
aren't
right now.
Swedish. Oh, Lars
Sweden
von
is
Trier is Danish.
Sweden is about to fucking put their fucking flag on the horror map. I am telling
Okay.
you right now. I'm interviewing a lot of Swedish filmmakers, horror filmmakers. Sweden is about to fucking put their fucking
Oh,
flag on that.
what are these meatballs made out of? Excellent.
Yes. And you did not. I did not picture like Sweden and horror. I'm like, this is fucking awesome. Okay, let me see what Sweden can do when it comes to horror.
I picture Midsommar to a certain degree. You
I
know,
do
the
too.
skeletons who go off, they don't know where they are, and it's the midnight sun. And it's a bunch of really happy-go-lucky people just force feeding them drugs. No, it's okay. It's okay.
That's exactly what I pictured.
Yeah. I think that's ooh.
All right, listen, Dave, I could talk to you all day, man.
Travis,
Listen,
blast.
more than welcome to come on anytime, man.
Oh, appreciate it. Hey,
You doing what you're doing, man. I'm a fan. I love your shit, man. It's amazing.
appreciate it. Next time one of my movies comes out, I'll let you know. I'll keep you posted.
Yes, most definitely. And guess what? I might now. Thanks for telling me that, because I was thinking about starting a film festival here in the United States. I might go do that shit in Europe.
Honestly, yeah, or online even. Because of COVID, there's so many events that are now just kind of online based.
But yeah, everybody's doing online. But I mean,
Everybody's doing online, which isn't the same. What I think is nice is you can subsidize your event by having it partially online. So you'll do like a 1 or 2 day festival for maybe the award winning or the nominated projects. And then you have all the selections play online, but not necessarily in person. So you can select more. There's so many. I've wanted to start a festival for a while myself. I've gone back and forth between, do I do it in France? Do I do it in New York? So if ever any questions, you want to chat about things, want to bounce ideas around, I'm right here.
definitely. I appreciate it.
I'll keep you posted if anything's ever playing in Baltimore. Produced a short film down in Baltimore a number of years ago, which did very well. Goodbye Charm City was called. I think it's available online or on Amazon. Send that to you if you want. It's not horror based though.
But Baltimore has a great art scene, and I don't think most people know. They have the best. I don't know if it's the best, but it's in the top 3. Art schools, like art and music schools and theater in the whole entire fucking country in Micah, and that whole little area of Mount Vernon. They even have a indie theater that's where I saw Midsummer in.
Oh really?
Theater. And they show only indie movies called the Charles Theater, and it's an old fucking theater, and it's filled with like this old little restaurants in Mount Vernon. And I fucking love that area, and I love going. I haven't been to that theater in a while, but I've seen many of like indie horror movies at that theater, and I was like thinking if I was going to do a film festival, it would definitely be at the Charles Theater.
Ooh, that's cool. Have you been to the Virginia Film Festival? It's not too far. Yeah, that's a nice one because they do it in a few different buildings around town, and a couple of them are like historical landmarks where they have like the opening event or closing one or something. And that was really nice to be part of like in part of the old town and being able to travel between we're discovering a new city, and it still feels a little homey where you're not kind of thrown into the big metropolis by yourself. Everything is still very close by. A lot of times, I don't know, for certain conventions, you can really feel like you're just really sitting in the same seat all day, all weekend. I like to be able to see the day a little bit in between movies and get a coffee and see that there's other people that are there enjoying the same thing. So cool.
But I'm going to the Magic for Horror convention because guess what? The Horror Room is a sponsor of Magic and Horror Film Festival, and we're going to be sponsoring some more stuff too. We're going to actually have an award named after us. So so definitely want to. Shiva Rodriguez, once again, thank you. You're amazing.
Shiva, you're the best.
Yes.
Definitely check out Magical Horror.
Yes, check it out. If you're looking for a fun film festival, There's a commercial in the beginning of this, but yes, check them out. All right, thank you for coming to the Horror Room, everyone. I'm Travis Bruce, and I just went on a long ass fucking rant, which I always do. But have a good one.
It was great time.
That was good, buddy.